Imagine that one day, the invisible shield around Earth suddenly disappears. No explosion, no shaking ground, no clear warning sign for humans to notice right away. The oceans still move, the cities still shine at night, but from that moment on, Earth has lost one of its most important layers of protection. We cannot see with our own eyes, and yet, for billions of years, it has quietly protected this planet from the deadly winds blowing out from the sun. That shield is Earth's magnetic field. So what would happen if it disappeared right away? Would the atmosphere be blown into space? And how would humans live on a planet without its invisible shield? What is Earth's magnetic field? Earth's magnetic field can be understood in a simple way as an invisible layer of protection surrounding our planet. It is created by the movement of molten metal deep inside Earth's core, far beneath our feet, inside the planet. Hot liquid iron and nickel are constantly moving, and that movement generates a giant magnetic field around Earth. We cannot see it, we cannot touch it, but it is always there, like a silent shield, quietly protecting life. The sun does not only give us light and heat, it also constantly releases streams of charged particles known as the solar wind. If these particles hit Earth directly, they could harm the atmosphere, satellites, power systems, and even life itself. Luckily, Earth's magnetic field blocks most of those particles. It redirects them toward the polar regions. And when those particles collide with the atmosphere, they create one of the most beautiful sights on our planet, the aurora. But that beauty is also a reminder that out there, the sun is not as peaceful as it seems. What would happen first if the magnetic field disappeared? If Earth's magnetic field disappeared, everything would not collapse. In a single day, humans would not be wiped out immediately. But the planet's most important shield would be gone. Satellites in space would become far more vulnerable to high-energy particles. Navigation systems, communication networks, the internet, and satellite television could all be seriously affected. Powerful solar storms could disturb electronic systems. Even power grids on the ground could face serious problems. A modern world that depends so heavily on technology would suddenly become much more fragile. Would the atmosphere be blown away? This is the most frightening question. Without a magnetic field, the solar wind could affect the upper atmosphere more directly. Over a very long time, this could help strip away parts of the atmosphere. Mars is often used as an example. The red planet may once have had a thicker atmosphere and liquid water on its surface. But after losing most of its global magnetic field, Mars became more exposed to the solar wind. Little by little, its atmosphere was stripped away. Today, Mars is a cold, dry desert with a very thin atmosphere. And that makes us wonder, if Earth lost its magnetic field for long enough, could it slowly follow a similar path? Could humans survive? If the magnetic field disappeared, life on Earth would not die immediately. The atmosphere would still be there. The ozone layer would still block part of the ultraviolet radiation, but radiation from space would become a much greater danger, especially for astronauts, high-altitude aircraft, satellites, and technology beyond the atmosphere. Here on the ground, humans would still be protected by the atmosphere to some degree. But in the long run, if the atmosphere were affected, if our protective layers became weaker, and if powerful solar storms happened more often, life would become far more unpredictable. We would need to build new protection systems. Satellites would have to be stronger. Power grids would need reinforcement. Space travel would become more dangerous. And humans would finally realize how much modern life depends on an invisible shield we almost never think about. The most terrifying part is not that the sky would explode, not that the oceans would instantly boil away, and not that every living thing would disappear overnight. The most terrifying part is that the change would happen quietly, little by little. Technology would become more vulnerable. The atmosphere would face greater danger. Radiation would become more dangerous, and Earth would no longer be protected as well as before. A planet that once had an invisible shield around it would now have to face directly the constant stream of particles blowing from the sun. Earth's magnetic field is something we cannot see, but it is one of the reasons this planet can remain a safe place for life. It is not loud, it is not bright, it does not appear in the sky every day, but it is always there, quietly protecting us from the harshness of space. If one day the magnetic field disappeared, Earth might not die immediately, but our blue planet would become far more fragile. And maybe, when we think about that, we begin to understand that life on Earth does not exist only because of water, or air, or sunlight. It also exists because of silent layers of protection working every second, deep beneath the ground, inside the atmosphere, and in the invisible space surrounding this planet. Earth is not just a place to live. It is a delicate system of balance. And if just one part of that system disappears, the entire story of life could begin to move in a completely different direction. If Earth's magnetic field disappeared, humans would not be wiped out right away. But modern life would have to change in many ways. First, we would need to protect everything outside the atmosphere. Satellites, space stations, navigation systems, communication networks, and weather observation systems. All of them would become more vulnerable to high-energy particles from the sun. So satellites in the future would need stronger radiation shielding. Electronic systems would need to be tougher, and humans would need more accurate solar storm warning systems, so we could shut down, redirect, or protect important equipment before damage happens. Here on the ground, power grids would become one of the biggest weak points. A powerful solar storm could disturb electric currents, damage transformers, and cause blackouts across large regions. So countries would have to build power systems that can survive space weather. They may need extra protection layers, emergency shutdown systems, and backup power networks. High-altitude flights would also have to change. Aircraft flying near the polar regions could face higher levels of radiation. Flight routes might need to be adjusted, and astronauts would face even greater danger once they leave Earth's protective atmosphere. Missions to the Moon, to Mars, or to space stations would need much stronger shelters against radiation. In the long run, if radiation on the surface increased, humans might have to build better protected living spaces. Some important structures could be placed deep underground. Hospitals, data centers, food storage facilities, research bases, and emergency shelters would all need protection from radiation and technological failure. Agriculture would also have to adapt. If the radiation environment changed, humans might need to grow food inside more protected greenhouses. Light, temperature, water, and air would all need to be controlled more carefully. Indoor farms, vertical farms, and closed food production systems could become far more important. In other words, humans would no longer live on Earth the same way as before. We would have to learn how to live on a more fragile Earth, a planet that still has air, still has water, still has life, but no longer has the invisible shield that quietly protected us for billions of years. And then, technology would no longer be only a tool for progress. It would become humanity's new armor.